Okay, everyone. I thought I'd put up another video of another Masters race that I competed in today in Canberra. It was about 50 minutes plus one lap of a 1.5 kilometer circuit that's used as a driver training circuit. So it's fantastic, no cars, and it's quite bumpy. There's undulations or three or four undulations and then quite a fast downhill front straight. Today was very windy, had a crosswind, but it sort of felt like we had a headwind in all directions today. In A grade, we had about 10 people, and where we're going to pick up the footage is about 25 minutes, so about halfway into the race. Three of us, Steve, Dan, and myself, have managed to break away from the rest, and I'm just going to walk you through. I might just fast forward it a little bit. Okay, so just to set the scene. So Steve is the guy who you'll see in front of me now, and Dan is the other guy who was wearing, I think, a cream coloured jersey. So, yeah, as I said, about halfway through the race, we'll pick up the action. I'll do a little bit of commentating, but otherwise, enjoy. Okay, so we're coming up to the first of the undulations, and you'll see, that it's pretty steep. Every lap it was nearly a max effort. Steve was super strong. I've come through to the front. I'm not trying to really punch it because I don't really want to tire myself out too much, but still go hard enough that we're moving and I'm putting something into Steve and Dan behind. So this is the second little undulation. You'll see it's actually deceptively steep. So you can't get into a rhythm on this course. So I'll just pause it here. So you'll see Steve has not really attacked, has just sort of come over the top as I've flicked my elbow for Dan, who you'll see there on the left, to pull a turn. And you'll see Dan isn't too minded to pull a turn. And I also was not too minded as well, seeing as I had just pulled and was wanting Dan to, I guess, fill the gap and get back on Steve's wheel. Now you'll see that unfortunately that didn't happen. So this is the third, I guess, undulation. And you'll see this is where Steve really started to put some distance into us. This was a really tricky situation for me because I didn't want to drag Dan across because he hadn't been doing much work for the last couple of laps. So I just sat on, but Steve was really going hard. So you'll see continued to put some distance into us. And so my plan here, I was going to leave Dan on the front until the fourth kind of steep pinch. You'll see it just coming here. So I'm going to sit on Dan through here. You can pretty much just roll onto this uphill. And then this is actually quite steep, and you'll see I absolutely smack it here to try and get across to Steve. This was a full max effort. And then there's this downhill. Yeah, I think we got up to 55, 60 k's an hour, or at least somewhere in the 50s. And so here I'm just gonna try and TT across to Steve. Now, talking to Steve after the race, he said he was going real hard. He could see me coming, and he didn't want me to come across. So I'm going as hard as I can here, and Steve's going as hard as he can for me not to make it across to him. And we'll see, I get pretty close. So the wind's coming from the right. It doesn't look that windy when you just look at the trees, but it was quite windy. So I've sort of reached a stalemate here, right? I just can't get across. Can't do that last final bit. And Steve looks back and he says, "Yep, I reckon I've got it." And he did. So there was about 15 minutes left in the race, 20 minutes left in the race from here. And Steve and I both just did a time trial to the end, and I never got back to him. So chapeau to Steve. He got first, I got second. And it was a fun, good day of racing.